today we're looking at cleft sentences. Cleft means cut into two parts. Cleave, when you cleave something, you cut something into two parts. So it's very often used, well, these cleft sentences, they're very often used when you're combining old information with new, or when you're trying to emphasize something which is new or surprising for the listener. So perhaps one of your parents asks you, are you watching a cartoon? And you're not, you're watching YouTube and you're watching my lesson, and you say, no, it's an English lesson that I'm watching. Now, the point to make here is that firstly, it's a relative clause, and so because we've got the subject here, we can omit that and we can say, no, it's an English lesson I'm watching. But of course, we could just say, no, I'm watching an English lesson. I'm watching an English lesson is not a cleft sentence. It's an English lesson that I'm watching is a cleft sentence, and it's one type of cleft sentence. It's called the it cleft, and it takes the following structure. It plus the verb to be, it is, plus the noun, an English lesson, and this is the surprising piece of information, the new piece of information here in the it cleft. And then a relative clause that I'm watching. And we could even miss that out because that's the old information. The listener knows you're watching something. And you could just say, no, it's an English lesson. Or, no, it's an English lesson that I'm watching. Okay, let's have another example. I blame his teachers for his bad marks. Perhaps somebody says this, and I might say, no, it's the parents that I blame. I wouldn't even need to say no, of course, that's unnecessary. I can just say, it is the parents I blame, or who I blame, or that I blame, but I don't need these two words because we've got the subject here. If I don't have the subject here, for example, if I say, it's the parents who are responsible, then I do need who or that. I do need one of those words there then. And this is really connected to relative clauses. If you're not sure about relative clauses, go to my lesson on relative clauses and you'll find out more information about getting rid of who and that. But there is something to note here. It is singular, the parents plural, and that's quite odd. And so it's something to be aware of, that we still use the singular form with the it cleft, even when we have a plural noun here. But we do need to conjugate the next verb, who are responsible. Are is conjugated with the parents. So that's something to be aware of, because perhaps that might be a little bit counterintuitive. Okay, now it's not just the word it which we can use for cleft sentences. It is probably the most common type of cleft sentence, but we can use other pronouns. We can also use what. We can also use where, when, how, why. We can also use the word all, and we can also do this down here in number 6, which we'll look at in a moment. But looking at some other pronouns, that, there, those, this, that was the boss that you spoke to. Yeah, we've still got this cleft, this division into two parts of the main clause, that was the boss, and then the subordinate clause you spoke to. There is no one I trust, or there is no one who I trust, or there is no one that I trust. All correct. Or those are the people who we met yesterday. Those are the people we met yesterday. This is clearly the main clause. This is the new information that you're giving. Those are the people we met yesterday. Yeah, you're introducing something new when you use this. There's no one that I trust, or you're putting emphasis on that part. There's no one at all that I trust. Okay, let's have a look at number 3, which is the what cleft. And this is a little bit different from the it cleft. It's sometimes called a pseudo cleft. I suppose they're trying to say that it's not at all like the it cleft. It's kind of like the opposite to an it cleft, and I want to show you that I could actually rearrange these sentences to make them what clefts. But let's look at this example first. What I want to know is how he got there. So we've got a noun phrase here, and then the verb be, and then another noun phrase, how he got there. We're using the whole phrase as a noun. That's why I call it a noun phrase. What I want to know It's the subject of this sentence. What I want to know is how he got there. And it's used for emphasis, but we could reverse the what cleft. I don't think we can do it with the it cleft. We can't say I'm watching It's an English lesson, but we can say how he got there is what I want to know. So I've reversed it in the second part. The what cleft can be reversed. And of course, all of these sentences we could say in much more simple terms. We could say, I want to know how he got there. That's not a cleft sentence. This one is not a cleft sentence. This is the ordinary sentence here. And here we could say, I'm watching an English lesson. And here I could say, I blame the parents. Okay, so you could put things the ordinary way, but this is done for stylistic reasons. I suppose it's to put emphasis on it's an English lesson that I'm watching. It's the parents I blame. And here, what I want to know is how he got there. It puts emphasis here on the blue part. And that's the difference, the main difference. Let me find a blue pen. That's the main difference between the it cleft and the what cleft. The it cleft emphasises this information. It's the parents that I blame. But the what cleft emphasises the last part. So if I wanted to change these two sentences into a what cleft, I would say, what I'm watching is an English lesson. Who I blame is the parents, or the people I blame are the parents, something like that. And then we can change it into a what cleft. Okay, so that's the main difference. The what cleft actually, when we've got what first, it puts emphasis on the second noun phrase. Okay, we can do this also with some other WH words and an H word. Where we went is a secret. Yeah, and here is the part you're emphasising, a secret. Why he came was a mystery to me. Yeah, so we can do it with other words as well. We can also do it with the word all. It's really quite common. All he did was to help those in need. And notice that too. You often get that too here, and you don't need to include it. And it's very common when we've got the all cleft, and also these ones in number 6. It's quite common to see a to if you've got an infinitive after the verb. You quite often can add the to, but you don't have to. I think with the reason you have to. The reason I'm teaching is to improve, to raise the level of my students. I could say to raise the level of the students. To raise the English level of my students, yeah? Something like that. And so with the reason, because you're saying the reason why, it's good to use a to plus infinitive. And here, all he did was to help those in need. So it is possible to put a to in these cleft sentences after the verb to be. Okay, all I know is he wouldn't have hurt anyone, or is that he wouldn't have hurt anyone, but you can get rid of it because we've got a subject again, he. Okay, the last cleft sentences. The reason I'm teaching this is it's useful in the CAE exam. Yeah, and it is. Quite often they have missing words, and quite often it's a what or an it, because you can see it's a cleft sentence. And so if you can identify cleft sentences, that will help you. Next one, the next thing I want to buy is a new camera. Maybe I'll buy a new camera, we'll see, but that just seemed like a good example. So when you've got the thing or the next thing, or the person who I admire the most is my cousin, yeah, or the person that I admire the most, or the person whom I admire the most, or the person I admire the most. It's up to you. Okay, I hope that's been interesting for you. I hope you've learned something something new about sentences. It's perhaps not essential information in a lot of different situations, and so it's not something I have taught anybody before. But in the CAE exam, in some grammar exams, it's quite useful to know. It's probably quite useful for GMAT or something like that as well. So I hope it helps you in some kind of way, and I hope to see you all soon. Thanks for watching.